But what's surprising, though, is people like Tucker Candace, they do supposedly believe in the Ten Commandments. They do believe in the importance of biblical conservative values. And yet they have this visceral hatred towards Israel and Jews.
I don't know what their commitment to the Bible is. You know, the Inquisition was also based on the Bible. What do they think the Bible is saying? I feel so bad. A Jewish guy who probably meant well is quoted as the reason for hating Jews. His soul must be tortured every time somebody does that. I feel bad for him. This man of peace. The United States in its early years was based on the Old Testament, not on the New Testament. It's disingenuous to say that it's based on the Bible. It makes it very vague.
Charlie Kirk actually said to me, he said, without the Torah, you do not have America.
It's clearly based on the Old Testament. Everything is the Psalms, the story of Moses and the Exodus from Egypt, the prophets, Isaiah, nothing from the New Testament. That's an important detail.
J.D. Vance said, I'm not here to give you a list of people I disagree with. We need unity.
Well, the only unity worth pursuing is a unified moral code. We can disagree on everything else, but if we disagree on morality, it's a declaration of war.
Okay, Rabbi Manis Friedman, thank you so much for joining us on JTV today. One of the things that I've been covering a lot recently on the channel is essentially a bit of a civil war that's taking place on the American right. I don't know how much you've been following of this, and it's a pretty new and unexpected development that's happened over the last few years, where basically you're starting to see figures, podcasters, hosts that are turning on Israel, even turning on Jews, tapping into elements of old school, classical anti-Semitism that we sadly saw from parts of the Christian world centuries ago. We're seeing also people on the right who might not say those things, but they will be very morally ambiguous about it, and they won't call it out, and they'll say, you know, everyone needs to have a place within the conservative tent. So much so that when Ben Shapiro gave a speech at a big Turning Point event last week, where he basically said, we as podcasters and influencers have a responsibility to our audience to provide moral clarity. And he said, and now I have to call out people like Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens who are legitimizing not just anti-Jewish and anti-Israel views, but frankly also anti-conservative viewpoints. And J.D. Vance, the vice president, goes on to speak afterwards, and he stands up, he says, I'm not standing here right now with a list of conservatives to condemn. You know, we need unity and all of that. And the first thing I wanted to ask you was, as someone said to me, that messaged me yesterday, they said, you know, Ollie, it's one thing to see a legitimizing of Jew hate coming from the left and from the Islamists, which we've seen for some time now, but starting to enter and poison the right. They said, you know, it almost feels like the walls are starting to close in on us. What are your thoughts on all of this and what's happening?
Oh, I'm against it.
That's good to know. Next.
I hate when this happens. It would be fascinating to figure out what's the background. Like Jerry Seinfeld says, I get in a taxi in New York and he's driving way over the speed limit, going the wrong way on a one-way street. And I lean over and I say to him, what's happening in your life that makes you drive like this? What's happening in these people's lives that make them talk like this, think like this, behave like this? What's going on? I mean, I think it's true that when people are happy and in a good mood, they're not anti-Semitic. I mean, why would they bother? So yeah, it's very easy to hate. But why would you bother if you're in a good mood? So what is going on? Whether it's the right or the left, What breeds this? And it's not us. It's not like, oh, all of a sudden we're doing something makes people hate us. It's probably the vacuum. You know, it's a beautiful thing, a very, very positive thing, that celebrities have been replaced with influencers. That's a sign of maturity, I think, in the population. Celebrities? What are you, thrilled to read the latest scandal? That's so mindless. Influencers get you to think. Well, that's so much better. But I think some of the influencers became celebrities.
Mm.
It wasn't what they were saying anymore. It was their own egos. And that's a strange mix. A celebrity influencer. That's a monstrosity. A cultural monstrosity. I think that's part of it. I mean, Candace Owen, she became a celebrity. She was.
I think that's
an
what she was
influencer.
always looking for, to be honest.
Could be.
Hmm.
She drank the Kool-Aid. That's an American expression.
I'm familiar with it. The world's Americanized enough for us to know all these things, unfortunately.
You don't just live in the back?
Oh no. We gave you guys the language and then you ruined it.
So I think it's not really a question of good versus evil in the world today. I think it's more of a question of meaning versus meaningless, direction versus directionless. It's the lack of conviction, the lack of commitment, the lack of a value for which to live. We know how to live, we don't know why.
Hmm.
So we become very vulnerable to any strong opinion. We can't fight back against any opinion because we were taught in college not to have an opinion. Oh, not to have a moral opinion. On everything else, you can have strong opinions. It's so strange. But it was actually, we were breeding it. This guy wrote the book called Chutzpah, Alan Dershowitz. Chutzpah is not a lifestyle. It may be a tool, useful at times. It's not a reason to get up in the morning. So there's a story where he gave his son, who went to college, he gave him a T-shirt. And written on the T-shirt was, "Doubt all authority." So he's wearing his T-shirt on campus, and another student is walking towards him reading the T-shirt, and he stops and he says, "Says who?" There's an inherent contradiction there.
Mm.
Who are you to tell me what to doubt?
It's brilliant.
We breed doubt. And it turns out to be only in the moral area. If you have an opinion about morality, you're dogmatic, you're close-minded, you're bigoted. You have strong opinions about Trump? That's good. It can even border on violence. That's good. You're voicing your opinion. Other than that, you're not allowed to have an opinion. It's crazy. So I think it's not so much that radicals are convincing, is that it doesn't take much convincing when you have no thought in your head. So somebody comes along with a cause, any cause, better than none. So we've created a very vulnerable Western mentality because it's vacuous. Somebody came up with a good line: nature abhors a vacuum. Bigots love it.
Mm.
They see a vacuum, they come running. The cults did that in the 70s. They noticed a desperate absence of spiritual values. They said, whoa, we're going to make a killing here. And then overnight, practically, they became the richest, the most powerful, thousands of devotees who gave them their credit cards, their car, their mortgage, in desperation for something spiritual. But spiritual is not the answer, so it bombed. They were also caught committing crimes. But I think it's our vulnerability that is the culprit. Why are we so vulnerable? How did Australia become Islamic? Because what were they before? No worries? That's not a lifestyle.
Do you think the founders of, let's say, America, who created the most successful Western nation, and they made it based on the one hand, it's based on this idea of freedom, the pursuit of happiness, no worries, exactly as you say. And then on the other hand, they were deeply religious. What do you think they felt was more essential to the social fabric of society?
They built the country on an ideal, not on freedom. To have your ideals was freedom,
Mm.
because in Europe, you couldn't have your own ideals. And that became kind of like intoxicating, as if it were the goal rather than a means to an end. No democracy can work without the Ten Commandments. If you don't have the Torah behind you, democracy is a disaster. It's anarchy. Democracy means I have some very strong values, and I get to choose the government that will support the values that I hold. So rather than being a victim of the government becomes a creation of the people. Like one comedian said, democracy is great. It's government by the people, of the people, and for the people. Isn't that wonderful? But what if the people are all idiots? There goes your democracy.
Yeah.
In other words, if we don't have values that we cherish, what government are you picking? The government who will give you the most money and leave you alone? That's not going to work.
But what's surprising though is people like Tucker Carlson and Candace and others, they do supposedly believe in the Ten Commandments. They do believe in the importance of biblical conservative values. And yet they have this visceral hatred towards Israel and Jews.
I don't know what their commitment to the Bible is. You know, the Inquisition was also based on the Bible.
Sure. So you're questioning their sincerity and their devotion to the Bible.
What do they think the Bible is saying? They think they're acting biblically? Or is their belief irrelevant to their everyday life? I don't know. If they really think that this is what the Bible is saying, that's more serious.
Tucker will often invoke the teachings of Jesus and whatever as why he's against what's happening in Gaza, as why he doesn't believe that Israel should be given any special treatment by America or by the world, and this idea of chosenness and all of that. And he'll often invoke these things. He's against collective punishment, blah blah blah. So he may well have twisted biblical values, but he does invoke them, and he may also not be sincere in it, but he does say it.
It's such a pity. I feel so bad. A Jewish guy who probably meant well is quoted as the reason for hating Jews. His soul must be tortured every time somebody does that. Really, I feel bad for him.
Do you think that's what the rabbis of the Talmud meant? If indeed they were referring to Jesus in the Talmud, where they speak about Jesus suffering in the afterlife right now, do you think that's what they meant?
Yeah, because it just doesn't stop. They keep doing things in his name that are, and he carries some of the blame. I don't know how. I mean, why'd they pick on him?
Well, didn't
Nobody
he say...
Nobody goes around killing in the name of Buddha.
But he said things like, we do away with the law and all of that, and there is this idea that one or two Jews may have betrayed him, although plenty of Jews loved him and followed him.
So he wants Jews killed? Really? This man of peace? I don't know. It's so distorted, twisted. Also, it's interesting that the United States in its early years was based on the Old Testament, not on the New Testament. It's disingenuous to say that it's based on the Bible. Makes it very vague. It's clearly based on the Old Testament.
Charlie Kirk actually said to me, he said, without the Torah, you do not have America.
Yeah. Yeah. No, you can't base a government on the New Testament. It doesn't offer a system. Not a single quote from the founding fathers, not a single quote from the New Testament, or none that came down through the years. Everything is the Psalms, the story of Moses and the Exodus from Egypt, the prophets, Isaiah, nothing from the New Testament. I guess That's an important detail.
Yeah.
So were the founding fathers Christian? They certainly didn't sound like it. The early schools, the little red schoolhouse on the prairie, in many cases taught the Bible in Hebrew. It was all Torah, Old Testament. Now, when you have strong convictions and you elect officials and a government that champions those values and convictions, then you have a working democracy. But words like freedom, pursuit of happiness, they're dangerous concepts because in and of themselves, they're totally meaningless. Freedom to do what? To shoot whoever you don't like? That's freedom. Live and let live? Wow, what a profound philosophy. It's not a reason to get up in the morning. So most Americans get up in the morning for only one reason: to have a coffee. They even say so. How does the commercial go? There's nothing better in the morning than Folgers in your cup. It's a coffee cup. And it's so true. What do you get up in the morning for? To go to work, to make money so that you can buy coffee in the morning. That's it. So people come in and say, no, 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 no. We have to fight for the right and for the die for your values and have virgins when you come to heaven. I said, whoa, that's something to get up in the morning for. As ridiculous as it is. So I think the culprit is what's missing, not what's happening.
Mm.
The Talmud says, it's not the mouse that is the culprit, it's the hole that allows the mouse in.
Mm.
Close up the hole.
Mm. So freedom, live and let live are not good phrases. What are good phrases for a country's civic life to be based on?
We're here to make the world better. We, not the government. We are here to make the world better. So we want a government that will, first of all, allow us to do it, also known as freedom, and that will actually enforce it. Give tax breaks for charity. That's supporting your values. I always wonder why nobody complains that that's violating the separation of church and state. Why do you get a tax break for giving charity?
Is charity necessarily church?
Thank God it's not. Because it's the one thing that all churches agree on. So it doesn't represent any one religion. In other words, it's a universal.
Right.
But all the mitzvahs should be universal.
Mm. Well, this actually was a question that I had that I think sent to you. One of our viewers asked was whether you mentioned all the mitzvahs should be universal. Someone had asked me whether it's appropriate for, if they're Christian, but they want to have a mezuzah, or they want to, light the Hanukkah menorah, whether such a thing like that is appropriate or specific to Jews.
It's specific to Jews as a requirement. But anybody who voluntarily wants the meaning of the mezuzah rather than the fulfillment of a commandment, yeah.
With a bracha?
No, because the bracha says you commanded us.
Ah, okay. So no bracha, no blessing beforehand. Fascinating. And
like, for example, why isn't honoring parents a universal concept? Why doesn't the government support that?
How would they support that?
Well, certainly encourage it. Don't put your parents in an old age home. Make your home comfortable for them. Any money you spend on your parents should be tax-free.
Yeah, it's a great idea.
Somebody complained to the Rebbe. This is really amazing. An Israeli politician in the opposition mentioned to the Rebbe how immoral it is that Israel subsidizes the birth of every Arab child in Israel. And he was sure that the Rebbe would agree. That's an outrage. Why are you paying for Arab babies? And the Rebbe said, no. Having babies is a mitzvah that we should encourage. Later, we may have to fight them. But when they're having babies, that's a mitzvah. You should encourage it by actually giving them money.
Wow.
So that should be universal. Prayer should be universal. No prayer in public schools? Why not? Because you're going to fight over which prayer? So fight it out and come to a conclusion. Come up with a prayer that everybody can say. No prayer? Whose country is this? The people who wrote on the dollar bill, "In God we trust"? They're in favor of no prayer? So we lost it. The whole West lost it. We started off very noble and purposeful, and then we just became celebrities. Instead of worshiping God, we have hero worship.
So presumably it's down to the Jews to fill this vacuum now.
Well, it's down to us to provide the information when the will is there.
And the will is there.
People have to want. There's something positive developing in Australia behind the scenes. The people in Australia are horrified by what happened in Bondi. It's forcing them to think, who are we and what are we? So when people say, oh, this is not the Australia I remember, Australia is not what it used to be. What did it used to be? remember when they were talking about an answering machine in Australia and comparing it to the American. If you if you know the number, you know the person you're calling, press this. If you go on to the what, press 3. If you want 5. If you want this in another language, go to the country they speak it. There was a certain principle of,
Yeah.
we speak English. You don't want to speak English? Then go away. There was a certain self-respect, at least, if not a high moral standard. But even that's gone.
Mm-hmm.
So it seems like you can't have self-respect without moral backbone. What are you respecting? The size, the space you take up on the map? Yeah, you're very big. Well, it's a country made up of people from all other countries. It's a collection of cultures. It's fine. But in the end, what defines you? What is it that all the people from all the other cultures are going to learn or develop if they live in your country? So, yes, welcome all the strangers from all over the world, but tell them what you stand for.
Mm.
And if they don't like it, they can go home.
What do you think about the fact that you have some of these, again, just going back to the Civil War on the American right, some of the speakers that are hostile to Israel, they'll often point to liberal or leftist, secular Jewish philanthropist or organizations, and they say, "Look, you see, it's that these Jews are pushing anti-biblical things." Now, I look at that and I think I can think of plenty of conservative Jewish organizations and speakers. Ben Shapiro himself. So kind of just like look. I feel like they're almost just looking for a destination before, and then they work their way backwards. But on the other hand, I kind of wonder: is there anything like legitimate in their thinking? They're seeing leading Jewish figures that are espousing values that can sometimes be anti-biblical, and they feel an aversion to that.
It's very true. The liberal Jew is terrified of anything religious because the memory of suffering religious persecution. Anything religious reminds them of pogroms and
Yeah.
eventually Holocaust. So, yeah, religiosity, Bible, the mention of God scares them with some justification. For how long have we been tortured and killed and discriminated against in the name of God? So when a non-Jew says God, all the red flags go up.
Mm.
So they want anything but religion. Somebody made this comment, which I think is true. Jews in Washington, or Jews always vote liberal. He said, no, they always vote unchristian. Whatever the Christians want, we say no. We're still afraid.
Mm.
We're still afraid.
Never thought about it like that. Makes sense.
The Jews are so against prayer in public school. Why? Because Christians are for it. It has nothing to do with liberal or conservative.
Mm.
We're severely damaged. And now we're so proud of the Judeo-Christian morality. And
Oh, they hate that, by the way, the Tuckers and the Candaces. They hate that phrase. Judeo-Christian? No, we're Christian.
well, they're completely wrong. But I hate it too, for the exact opposite reason. Yeah. The fear is so deeply rooted.
Hmm. Do you ever think about the fact that there's this line in the Talmud, the Gemara, that says, if without the Torah, the Jews would destroy the world? And I sometimes think about that when I think about, it is true. A lot of significant isms, other ideologies, feminism, communism, capitalism, liberalism, etc., obviously there are plenty of non-Jews that are involved, but also lots of leading Jewish figures. And I sometimes think that, it's like that. I can't remember who said it. Jews are inherently religious. They just might not always pick Judaism. Does that resonate with you?
Yeah, liberalism could be considered a religion, has the same passion, the same irrational convictions. But if I was just talking to somebody about this, Torah values. Everybody thinks it's moral and acceptable and admirable to champion the underdog. Doesn't it sound like a good thing? You have pity on the underdog and you champion their cause. That is so immoral according to Judaism.
Mm.
You're not allowed to favor the rich. You're also not allowed to favor the poor.
Mm.
Oh, they're oppressed people. Are they good people? Well, maybe if you didn't oppress them, then maybe they would be good. That's not morality. That's psychobabble, which has replaced morality. Much better to be a sinner than to be insane. Not true. In Jewish communities, we had many people who were literally insane, but they kept Shabbos and they wouldn't steal. Morality is stronger than insanity when it's there. So it's a very important distinction between maybe Christian morality or just secular morality that believes that you have to champion the underdog. Mm. Whoever's losing the war is the good guy. Oh, really? What kind of morality is that? Oh, but they lost 30,000 soldiers. And what, that makes them the good guy?
Unfortunately, in our world today, it does. You have to check out the trailer for our new documentary on Moshiach, the Jewish belief about the Messiah, what he will do, how the world will look after his coming, and why his arrival is close. And if you want to watch the full thing, just click the link below in the video description. For thousands of years, the Jewish people have carried a promise that history is not a random cycle, that suffering and darkness and exile are not the end of the story, that one day the world will be redeemed and the Messiah, the Moshiach in Hebrew, will come. But what does that actually mean? Who is Moshiach? When will he come? How will we know he's real? Why would God design a world that waits so long for redemption in the first place? And what will life feel like after he comes? With AI and machines beginning to replace work, maybe we're already catching a glimpse. But then what will we do with our days? The prophets spoke of that world long ago. In this groundbreaking JTV Plus documentary, we uncover the truth about the Jewish vision of the Messiah, who he is, why it matters, and why his coming could be closer than you think. Join us as we reveal the truth about history's most anticipated figure. To watch this JTV Plus documentary and access much more premium content, click on the link in the video description. But specifically on that point about saying Jews would destroy the world without the Torah, what do you think the Gemara meant? Because I just read that as, well, they would just maybe push other ideologies that aren't kosher. Is that what it means?
Well, as a default, if Jews don't pursue the Torah, they are destroying the world because of what's lacking by omission.
So it's more passive, right?
That's for sure. It may also be more actively by commission that we peddle the wrong values. People tend to listen to Jews, smart Jews, like Kissinger, who was really not good for Israel. He's responsible for the Yom Kippur War. So, yeah, we can either be a very powerful force for the good, or we become a toxic messenger. Yeah, without Torah, we're not going anywhere.
And one of the arguments that's happening in this fight on the right is precisely as J.D. Vance said. He said, "I'm not here to, give you a list of people I disagree with or call out as, bringing poisonous ideas into our movement. We need unity." And on the other hand, Ben Shapiro says, "I'm not in politics to make friends, and I can still be friends with people I disagree with, but as a podcaster with a massive audience that can shape the future direction of this country, there's an even higher value than unity, and that is speaking the truth and saying, hey, you may be part of our movement, but you are bringing poisonous ideas into this movement, and I have a duty to give that moral clarity." And I wonder just from what your perspective was, because I feel like I often hear around Tisha B'Av time this idea of unity is actually the highest value of all. But on the other hand, surely we can't say unity at the expense of not speaking the truth and not saying, hey, what you are doing to our group, our people, our movement, whatever it is really, really damaging. So how do you navigate balancing truth versus unity?
Well, the only unity worth pursuing is a unified moral code. We can disagree on everything else. That doesn't hurt. But if we disagree on morality, it's a declaration of war. So unity comes when you can gather people under a universal, true purpose for our existence. And so we're talking about Hanukkah. Actually, this event in Australia made Hanukkah such a powerful holiday because everyone was reflecting on the fact, why did it happen on Hanukkah? What is the Hanukkah response? Anyway, Hanukkah became a major event. Why is it that of all the mitzvahs, all 613 of them, all 620, including the rabbinic mitzvahs, there's only one mitzvah that we go public with? Hanukkah. The mitzvah is to light a candle where it can be seen in the streets. In Israel, they actually light it outdoors, in front of the house, in front of the... In Europe, that was a little dangerous, so we moved it into the window. But why? We don't hang matzah on Passover. We don't hang matzahs on our doors. We don't walk the streets. Yeah.
But they're more subtle.
very subtle. And we don't walk around on Rosh Hashanah blowing shofar in the streets. Why does the menorah belong outdoors? So this year we learned a new lesson. The whole point of Hanukkah is not to tell the world that we have light in our homes, to tell the world that they need a light in their homes. It's not saying something about us. It's saying something about the streets. People walking by, hello, light your candles. Not, oh, we have candles. We're celebrating a Jewish holiday. No. We're sending a message. Everyone in the world has to be a light. No one is exempt. If you're not creating light, then you're part of the problem. It's a whole different Hanukkah now. It's not a statement like everybody said, we are defiant. We're going to light our candles. We're going to be ourselves despite. That's pathetic.
I was actually going to ask, how did you feel about some Jewish people booing Prime Minister Albanese, who Rabbi Eli Schlanger wrote to him saying, I urge you to reverse recognizing a Palestinian state, and many people feel utterly let down, betrayed by him. But is that an appropriate response? I'm not sure.
It's never appropriate to tell somebody how bad he is, including your own children. Don't tell them how bad they are. Tell them how good they can be. Somebody would say, this would be a time to rethink. Now you can come out and be a champion and do the right thing. Not say, you're so bad we don't want to talk to you. That doesn't get you anywhere.
So true.
I made my point. Thank you. You're a tzaddik.
I love that, because often the options that we're kind of placed with are either we can boo and call them out, or we can just be very nice and, say they're great and thank you for coming, blah, blah. But there's actually a third option, precisely as you say, which is to say you can do so much goodness if you go down a different path.
You've got the microphone, you've got the camera. Do something noble. I wonder if anybody suggested to Gorbachev, you want to go down with communism or do you want to be a hero? Yeah, it never pays to tell bad people how bad they are. There's no case in history where somebody became good because he was told how bad he is.
Often people actually dig in their heels and they think, oh, well, they weren't very nice to me. I showed up there. I tried to show solidarity and...
Yeah. That's Hanukkah. Somebody should have handed him a menorah and said, you have a chance to light the world up instead of... We just have these knee-jerk reactions, and it's not good.
Rabbi, one of the comments that I keep getting on our channel is people talking about the erev, which is not super well known, but there's this idea that when the Jews left, I'm just explaining to our audience, not explaining this to you, but that when the Jews left Egypt, there was a cohort of Egyptians that I believe converted and came with the Jews and became part of the nation of Israel. And from what I understand, there is this idea among our sages that they have the potential, particularly in the end of days, to sort of distract or lead away or distort the Jews from their mission. I wonder if you could shed a bit of light on this. Is there any truth to that, an application of that today? Some people even try to say that certain Jewish leaders come from erev. Like, do they have any practical, meaningful role in the Jewish people today?
I don't think so. That's sensationalism.
Interesting.
You know, the expression riffraff comes from erev.
Interesting.
And erev can be translated as a multitude of people, a collection of people who left Egypt with the Jews because they championed the winner against the underdog. But erev actually means many great people. A mixture of Rav, not of peasants, the elite, the intellectuals, were the ones who followed the Jews. And they were a problem because they kept introducing their own ideas. So, for example, when Moses seemingly disappeared and was not coming back from heaven, somebody suggested making a golden calf. Where in the world did that come from? It's not in the Jewish repertoire,
Yeah.
It came from the Egyptians, who, because they were intellectuals, they were sophisticates, their opinion was heard. And it created some problems. So riffraff, it gives the wrong impression. Riffraff sound like a bunch of street people, losers. But that's not who came with the Jews. In one occasion, God was a little critical of Moshe. He said, "You accepted them when they wanted to come along. You didn't ask me. So you're responsible for them." But now, to make this whole conspiracy theory about Jews being really from non-Jewish, there are people who are acting like the Erev, bringing in non-Jewish ideas and contaminating Jewish thought. But that's what Hanukkah is all about. We weren't resisting the Greeks. We were resisting the Jewish Greeks who said it's okay to add a little Greek culture and belief to our thinking. And the Maccabees said no. The Greeks should be thinking like us, not we should be thinking like them.
And speaking of blood and lineage and all of that, one of the other things I sometimes hear from people on the right is they say, and the left actually for that matter, they say Israel is an ethno state. Now, for the left, they say, and that's unacceptable, because we don't believe in that in the West, preserving an ethnic majority. On the other hand, you have people on the right, maybe not the Tuckers, but some people like that, Nick Fuentes and others, who say Israel's an ethno state, and therefore that's why America, if Jews say Israel can be an ethno state, so should America. And that's what we want. And it's unacceptable to have these Jews saying they want their ethno state of Israel, but America can't be that. I wondered what your thoughts were on that, because I think from my perspective, part of it is, what do you mean by ethnic? Ethnic, from what I understand, can mean racial. It could also mean more kind of cultural values. Yes, descending from a native population, but not strictly there. It's more about maintaining a culture. And I kind of think that the latter is legitimate. And, it's clearly not explicitly racial, because anyone can become a Jew. And so Israel's sort of saying that we're maintaining a Jewish majority in order to maintain the values of this nation. So anyone can become a Jew, but that means you've got to sign up to our values. And I think, do you think it's legitimate for a nation to say that, but it's a little bit less black and white than that, because we also are preserving predominantly a particular group that are descended from a certain population as well. So my thinking's a little bit unclear about this. I just wondered if you could shed any light.
Well, what if you have an ethno majority, but you have no idea what you stand for?
Well, this was precisely a question. I heard a right-wing commentator in the UK said he was asked, would you rather Britain became majority Sudanese, let's say, but it was Christian, or majority native population, but white, but atheist?
Yeah, I think that's the question. Israel has to be a Jewish land. What does that mean? Not that there are Jews, but that the government, the land is governed by Jewish values. And you don't have to be Jewish to have those values. So it's not exclusive, it's not exclusionary. Come and share our values.
Hmm.
But when you don't have the values, then it becomes, oh, no, you're not Jewish. You're not welcome. If he's a good man, why isn't he welcome? Because he's not Jewish? That's
interesting. So it's not legitimate to base a state on preserving the native population?
If the native population has something to offer to everyone who comes, say, yeah, you can come and live like this too. Which Israel does to the extreme and then suffers for it. You can come here and not live by our values. That's not good.
What would living by values look like? Being a Noahide?
Yeah. But that's not good for any country.
Hmm.
Oh, you're welcome to come here. You don't have to share our values. Are you crazy? That's suicide. So it's not who you are, it's what you believe in.
Is ethnic the right term to describe it?
Yeah, well, technically it is. It's a land that Jews made so that they can be Jewish. So you're going to invite in people who try to tell you not to be Jewish? That's crazy. You believe in democracy, so you invite communists to come live in your country? That's crazy.
But in theory, Israel doesn't check any Jews' values at the door when they come to the country. It's not about their values; it's just the fact that they are Jewish.
That's sad. Not that they should exclude any Jews, but they should expect every Jew who comes to Israel to live Jewishly. We don't want strangers coming and practicing Christianity or other. You want a Jew coming and practicing Christianity because he's Jewish? There should be an expectation, not a law. Every Jew belongs in Israel. But if you come to Israel, you should be expected to act like a Jew.
Well, that was going to be my last question, because I know you're short on time. But I know that I can't remember if it's the Rambam or the Ramban that says that a mitzvah is only truly properly fulfilled when it's performed in the land of Israel. Do you believe that ultimately every Jew should aim to make Aliyah and move to Israel?
With Mashiach, not before Mashiach.
Because a lot of people say to me, Ollie, hey, it's time. And I kind of feel a bit torn because on the one hand, I feel like maybe our destiny is there. I'm advocating for it, the land and the people every single day. On the other hand, I have a lot of responsibilities and opportunities and work to do out here in the diaspora. Is it
One
built
thing,
down anywhere that one should move if they can?
one thing is for sure, we should not run to Israel out of fear. That is, retreat is the beginning of surrender. No, Mashiach will not be a panic. So we will come out of Golus and we will come back to Israel because we're ready and the world is ready and the country is ready. Not all the red tape they could put every Ola through.
So when Mashiach comes, all Jews will move back to Israel.
Yeah.
Will we have any need to travel?
On a jet plane, but not because of fear. We're going to turn Israel into a ghetto, because that's what's happening. Go to Israel, you'll be safe. That's what they say about ghettos.
Yeah.
Put up a wall, protect yourself. No. Hanukkah says, don't protect yourself from people. Get them to do the right thing too. I think the bottom line is this. People are not our enemies. It's not these people against those people. It's darkness against light, or light against darkness. Yes, there's evil in people, but it's not the people, it's the evil that we're fighting. And the best way to win is to get the people who are evil to become good. Then you have truly eradicated the evil, not just fenced yourself in.
So no obligation.
Israel built a wall, remember? Sharon built a wall to protect us. Are you kidding? This is what Israel is about? Leave the ghettos of Europe and come to the ghetto called Israel? No, Israel should be exporting morality, Torah, goodness. It has to become universal. Build walls around Israel and get everybody inside Israel to be moral and righteous. Completely wrong thinking.
Didn't some of the great sages of prior eras, make plans to move to Israel out of obligation? Is there no concept that we have, if we can, a duty to try and move there?
If you're not needed where you are, if you're not making a difference where you are, then yes, being in Israel, the Holy Land, what could be better?
What if it doesn't? What if it's you could make it work in the diaspora? You could make it work in Israel.
So where are you needed more? We're on a project. We're not just wandering Jews. We go to places with a purpose, with a divine purpose. And to just give it all up and go to Israel? Why? So that you feel better? Not good enough.
Will there be a need for any Jews in the diaspora after Moshiach?
There won't be a diaspora. The whole world will be holy.
Well, in that case, will Jews need to move to Israel?
It's a good question. Will all Jews go to Israel, or will Israel come to every Jew?
Right. It seems to me like a lot of us will move to Israel because that's what the prophecies say.
Yeah, the simple meaning is we'll all move to Israel. But if we succeed in making the whole world holy, then the Holy Land will be a description of planet Earth.
And Israel?
Heaven will not be as holy as Earth.
Will Israel always be holier, though, than the rest of the world?
Yes. There'll still be the pilgrimages 3 times a year.
Right.
So Israel will become like the Jerusalem of the world.
Right. Fascinating. Rabbi, thank you so much. Always enlightening and such a pleasure.
Thank you for the opportunity. What you're doing is cosmic.
I hope so. That'd be good.
Without a doubt.
Imagine you're running for your life. Your home is no longer yours. Your neighbours spit at you in the streets. The government has branded you an enemy, stripped you of your rights, your livelihood, your humanity. You're a Jew in Nazi Germany, 1938, and the world knows your people are being crushed under Hitler's iron fist. You're desperate, clutching a suitcase with everything you own, praying for a visa, a ticket, a country, any country that will let you in. Now imagine this. The world's most powerful nations gather to decide your fate. 32 countries meeting in a lavish hotel by a serene lake with the power to save you, to save hundreds of thousands like you. And one by one, they say no. Welcome to JTV. I'm Ollie Annisfeld, and today we're diving into one of the most gut-wrenching, shameful chapters in modern history, the Evian Conference of 1938. This was the moment when the world had a chance to stand up, to open its doors, to save countless Jewish lives from Nazi persecution, and turned its back. This is a story of hope dangled and then snatched away, of sympathy that never became action, of a failure that paved the way for the Holocaust. We'll uncover every layer of what happened at Evian, why it unfolded the way it did, and the chilling warning it holds for us today. This is not just history, it's a mirror, forcing us to confront who we are when the world cries out for help. To watch this JTV Plus documentary and access much more premium content, click on the link in the video description.